Welcome to the EMN Podcast, where philosophy meets disaster and uncomfortable truths meet the profession we call emergency management. This is not safe space thinking. This is the arena. Let's begin. Well, good morning. How are you doing today? Oh, you're muted, Dan. Man,
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
Started the day off already with muting.
Yeah, that's fine, man. People need me muted.
Sometimes
I need me muted because I'll get under their skin.
So, man, we just got off of a really successful National Emergency Management Awareness Month in August, and I thought that was great. Thanks for IEM for leading that charge. There's been some really cool stuff going on with that across the nation. And you know the neat thing about that, Dan, is the Google search for emergency management spiked in the month of August, and it went up like 500% across the month of August. So.
Yeah, that's quite a big jump. That's ultimately, yeah, any advances in people searching for emergency management is going to be good, but to see it do that is amazing. I mean, it really did, for it being its first one, it really did come out swinging. I mean, we as an organization, as organizations, as individuals, as even departments and individual offices, they all really stepped up and pushed out what it was to be an emergency manager, doing emergency management, what it meant. Some of them took up the challenge too to do the 31 days of emergency management when it came to the month of August being the very first annual emergency management month, awareness month, to bring awareness to what it is that we do, especially with everything going on with and I think one of the biggest reasons too is with everything happening at the federal level. Right. So it really did bring some notoriety to what it is that we do. At least for the most part, I think too, it helped educate people that it's not just about emergency preparedness. It's not just about a response. So it was definitely a great thing. It was great to see, to see that, the stats that you just mentioned, that have people actually taking the time to say, what is, looking it up is fantastic.
Well, EMN's own Mike Prasad, he took the lead and really put together a great 31 days of articles here on the EMN Substack on what emergency management is and celebrating what it is. But today, I really want to kind of get into when we say emergency management, that's the function of what emergency management is. But I really want to kind of get into the philosophy and the profession of who emergency management is. Who is emergency management? Who are emergency managers? And kind of where we go back into it. And I know that most emergency managers get this, and I'm not really talking to us, to the profession. It's a little bit about to those who we work for and where we started. And, our roots go back, way back, into the civil defense. Realistically, World War I is kind of where we start seeing the roots of emergency management. Some could even argue further back, but I think we could realistically argue back to World War I, for sure World War II, and then to the Cold Era. Transitioning in the 70s into the all, definitely to the all hazards approach, and then 1979, where we are today in the modern era of emergency management. That's our history of what emergency management is. But, with humans' evolution into emergency management, who are emergency managers, Dan? I want to pose that question to you. And what do you believe when I say who are emergency managers? What does that mean to you?
Well, that's, for me, that's a difficult question for me, because there are emergency managers out there who are doing the job of an emergency manager, and there are emergency managers out there who are not doing the job at all. So it's a very difficult question. But when it comes to what I feel emergency management should be, it's emergency managers should be people of service and people who drive change. The thought process, especially with philosophy, again, if we're going to bridge that philosophical thought of what emergency management and of what the emergency manager who applies the practice of emergency management, it's ultimately to bring change, and it's to bring change to the way people think. It's the way people think about the things that they do. And if you're doing emergency management right, then you are bringing in change, and you're bringing in a different way of looking at things. Emergency managers they ultimately are the in-between. They're the line that says, this is why something should be done. And it doesn't just go to one direction. It goes multiple directions. As an emergency manager, we always, even though emergency managers supposed to play the leadership role, we're never really in a place where we are the decision maker. We're the influencers of the decision makers, whether that be in an organization or in the community at which we are trying to get people to make decisions. And so we have to be individuals that can influence others. So emergency manager is someone that brings change, but they're influencers of others. And how we bring that influence into people and how we ignite that action behind the influence is really what makes an emergency manager great. And as I mentioned before, this whole thing, some are great, some are not doing anything at all. But it really does depend on the individual and how they see their position. You have individuals who are, for no fault of their own, they're assigned it as other duties as assigned, and as an emergency manager, they try to fit it in when they can, right? If they know what they're doing. Then you have those who take on the role and then do everything they can to learn about it and find out what they're doing, but they have no resources. And you have those who have all the resources in the world. They really do. They have 5, 6, 10 individuals working in an emergency management office, each tasked with doing a very specific thing, and then you have those who are doing it all. So it's such a mixture. But when you boil it all down, we're influencers of people. We're influencers of the decisions that we need to have made before, during, and after the disaster strikes. And it's got to stop being thought of as we're not leaders or we're not decision makers. We influence the decision maker, and that's what an emergency manager is. They're an influencer of decision makers, whether that be the individual making a decision to evacuate or the leader making a decision to fund a project for a program, a jurisdiction, organization, whatever it may be.
I want to share a video with you. I don't know if you've seen this one or not, but it's a video that was produced for National Emergency Management Month. And if this works well, you will all see this video and the sound. But let me share this with you really quick.
Most people don't think about emergency managers. We understand why. We're not the ones driving ambulances or putting out the fires.
Instead, we're behind the scenes, making sure that those resources have everything they need before they know they need it.
Because we knew the risks and worked together to be ready. Every day, we unite the people who keep our communities thriving. The schools that care for your children,
the hospitals that heal our loved ones, the utility providers that keep the lights on and the water flowing, the elected officials that make decisions, and the first responders who protect us all.
Together, we plan, we train, we build relationships before the emergency happens. We write the plans no one hopes to need.
And we ask questions that make people uncomfortable. Because we know what happens when pressure is real and minutes are short.
We've seen what it looks like when communities aren't ready, when chaos takes over, when families look for help that isn't coming.
We do our job so that the next time the outcome is different. Because this job isn't just about plans or systems or strategies.
It's about walking our communities through their darkest days and helping them find their way back.
No matter how long that recovery takes.
If you look for us, we can be found in all levels of government.
Local, state, tribal, federal, U.S. territories, and internationally.
We're in your schools, colleges, and universities, in your nonprofits, utilities, and transit systems.
We even work behind the scenes where you shop, work, and unwind on the weekend.
You may not know our names, but we're here.
Every day.
Ready to hold the pieces together.
When it seems the world is falling apart.
We're your emergency managers.
It's a pretty good video.
Yeah, I think it's pretty powerful. You know, I mean, it really tells that story of, in a short period of time, of what emergency management is. And the fact that, you know, it's integrated into everything that we are, and emergency managers are integrated into everything that we touch, that we do, every aspect. You know, we have emergency management in schools, in your businesses, in your supply chain, in, you know, the electric company, in your utilities, everything that humans touch. There's emergency managers, and I think I think people forget about that. You know, we're that, as somebody said, nobody knows who we are until there's somebody to blame.
Well, that's the sad thing about it, is that, yeah, usually it's nobody knows who we are until there's someone to blame, but whose fault is it that no one knows who we are? So that brings me, some people disagree, but I feel like as an emergency manager, we should be as public, as forward facing as possible. Whether you're one person or an office of 10 or 20, it doesn't matter. You should be as public, as forward facing as you can be. We should be in the public eye all the time. Like, it shouldn't be just when bad things happen. They're looking to see if they can get a statement from emergency management or an emergency manager. They should know who we are. They should know who we are, where we are, why we're there, and what it is that we do on a daily basis. Like, and how are they supposed to know that if we don't tell them? How are they supposed to know that if we're not actively engaging with the communities? Not only just our communities, it's our organizations that we represent. There are emergency managers that people don't know who they are in their own organization.
Yeah.
How is that possible? How is it possible that no one knows who you are? Why don't they know?
And that's one of the things I teach my students all the time, or at least I say teach them, at least tell them, is like, hey, get out from behind this keyboard, and go out and talk to people,
they should be setting meetings. They should be asking for help. They should be sending emails. They should be out in the community asking people what they need. And it doesn't have to be, and this is the thing, is that it can be a very large thing.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second, and sorry about that.
Don't interrupt me, man.
I'm going to. Not even just in the community. You said it, in your own organization.
Yeah, in your own organization.
In your own organization. If the public works director or the even like the maintenance guy doesn't know who you are, you're doing it wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. And I think that boils down to what it is that we're doing. Like, what is it that you're doing as the emergency manager? Are you putting out regular briefings? Are you asking for regular meetings? Are you asking for help? Are you asking for people to take actual activity inside your department, and what it is that you do? That really does. If people don't know who you are and they don't know where you're located, they don't know how to get a hold of you. Whose fault is that?
Right.
It boils together. And if you're not doing that, no one knows that, and your upline doesn't care, you should care, right? As the individual doing the job. So it comes down to, like, as I've been pushing for the last 5 years now, marketing and advertising. We need to be our own. We need to be marketing ourselves, advertising to our programs, to our initiatives, to our meetings that we're putting out there, the trainings that are happening, everything. They should know who we are, what we're doing, where to find us, all that stuff. And if we're not doing that, it's on us.
Right.
When they find us and say, what have you been doing all this time when the bad thing happened? And that's the way it's easy. You see it around the country. Is the bad thing happens, and then they narrow in on the emergency manager who's supposed to be doing the job, and they say, "What have you been doing all this time?" Well, you haven't been telling them what you've been doing, so now it looks like you haven't done anything. So if you were telling them ongoing, and they can track all the information, they can look back at the emails, they can look at the correspondence, they can look at the plans, they can look at the training you did, they can look at all this stuff that you've been putting out there. They can say, this emergency manager, this individual's been doing these things.
Yeah.
Right? Versus, we don't even know who you are.
Dr. Avery here. I'm not going to read the entire thing out, but what I want to pull out of this here is the last sentence. They connect the dots, emergency managers. They connect the dots, making sure everyone has what they need and the response runs smoothly. I think that's the key to emergency management. What they do, right?
What they attempt to do.
What they attempt to do.
They should be attempting to do. Whether or not they have it, we may not have as an organization or jurisdiction everything that they need, but what have we done beforehand to ensure that the community, that we don't have everything they need, but that we have mutual aid agreements and partnerships that we can get with the stuff that they need, right? That's what we do. We are the support mechanism. We are the influencers of the influencers. We're the ones that go out there and make things happen, and we do that before the bad thing happens.
And excuse me. One of the things I would say on this as well is that what we should be doing, and I'm going to steal this a little bit from Kyle King, is, and I've been using this a lot lately, is capacity building within our communities. And when we think about, no matter what community you live in, we have finite resources. And you can live in the most resource-rich community that you can think of. You could live in Los Angeles City, you could live in New York City, you could wherever, right? We all have, they have tons of resources, but they have finite resources too, right? They do run out of things. And so that means that's, if you think of like LA City, for instance, the home of the CERT program, or whatnot, the capacity building, go to your community and go to your community groups and build those capacity. That's really realistically what we should be doing, and building that robust community. And if you've ever seen anything I've written or listened to things I've said before, I talk about the concept of anti-fragility, building upon Nicholas Taleb and bringing his idea of economic anti-fragility and bring it into community anti-fragility. And it's really about building robustness and building capacity. And that's, again, building upon what Daniel just said, is getting out into the community, getting out behind the keyboard and meeting people, making friends and influencing people, right? That's what we should be doing. That's what we are. But kind of going back to, but who are we? And I think at the end of the day, emergency managers have to be servant-minded individuals or public servants. And we can say law enforcement, we can say fire and EMS, doctors and nurses and so forth, probably are public servants as well. But we're also risk-minded. I'll say risk-averse maybe. But we're also diplomats, right? And stealing a little bit from Carrie, right? Carrie Esperanza. We're also diplomats. We also have to build those bridges. We have to build those bridges from our local government to the community. And I think that's who we are as well.
Well, if you're not doing it now as an emergency manager, my suggestion to you is to do small steps every day. And it's not just get out from behind the keyboard right away, right? Send a bunch of emails to people that you want to work with. Set up meetings, then start getting out in the community or outside of your organization. And it really does depend on what you're doing. There's going to be certain times where your attention is inward thinking, your community, your organization, like making sure everybody knows who you are, what you do, that they know their role. And then there's going to be the outward facing, where the community knows what you're doing, why you're doing it, what their role is during when these things happen, right? So you got to switch the line of thinking and how you do things. And yeah, you need to get out in the community, you need to be seen. But if you're not doing that now and you're wondering how, send some emails to some people that can help you and just introduce yourself to them. That's in your organization or in your community. If people don't know who you are in your organization, you need to introduce yourself, and you need to do that sooner than later. And then you start asking for help.
How do you do that? How do you, this is a challenge, and I think maybe something we could talk about in later podcasts as well. How do you become known in the community without outshining your leadership?
It's not about what you're not trying to outshine anybody, but you are trying to be seen. But your whole approach should not be, you should not be worried about trying to outshine anybody. You should just need to be worried about doing your job. And your job is to be seen and to be heard and to engage and interact with people. And if your leadership's not doing that, then that's on them. But you're doing that. You need to ultimately be making sure that you're doing everything you can do to ensure that you've honored your community or your organization when it comes down to ensuring that they're safe and they're protected. I don't care about outshining anybody, but I'm not trying to.
Right.
But if people know who I am over other people that's in leadership, that's not my fault at that point. I've done everything I can to make sure that I'm doing my job. And when it boils down to it, I would rather be known than unknown. I don't care about outshining. I'm not trying to outshine.
Right.
But if you're doing your job right, you're going to be a well-known individual. And it's not about shining bright.
I always think about Machiavelli and the Prince, like don't outshine the master, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's ultimately a false statement. That's more of those things that you're trying to keep yourself out, under the radar. I think we're enough under the radar as it is. I think, so I think it doesn't really, and we're not going to outshine anybody as long as we're doing our job correctly, because our job is not to outshine, it's to collaborate and partner.
Sure.
We're not trying to outshine, we're trying to build relationships. So if we're doing our job, people know who we are, but they also know that we're not there to take credit. We're there to give credit. We're there to build relationships. And if we're doing our job right, yeah, people know who we are. They know what we do. They know how we're doing it. But it's not about, okay, well, it makes me look good. It's about, I'm doing my job and I'm honoring the community that I represent, whether it's very small or very large. People know who I am because they know I've built partnerships and I've built relationships with them. For when the time comes, we all know what we're doing, and I know who I need to call. And we say this huge. You don't want to be meeting anybody on the scene of an accident or incident. Well, that plays a huge role when you need to know who's doing what and why they're doing it and what resources you have available to you. You can't figure that stuff out in the midst of a disaster. You figure it out beforehand. And by doing that, you build those collaborations, those partnerships. People are going to know who you are. So for me, it's not about outshining. And I think that you don't outshine the master, but at the same time, if the master's not doing their job, the master's not promoting you to promote the organization, promote safety, promote lives.
Right.
Through the master.
I think one of the problems that emergency management has had over the years is we have allowed other services to define who we are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like, how do you think we go about like changing that?
Well, that's a more difficult question, because changing that is harder to do when it's still such a large part of emergency management. When you have emergency management, and I say offices and departments loosely but when you have a department or an office of emergency management buried deep in a fire department or buried deep in a law enforcement agency, it's hard to define it accurately, because it's defined by where it's at and by who oversees it. and it's hard to identify it correctly, especially when the individual doing the job is usually so implemented inside that organization that it doesn't mean more to them than what they're used to, which is it's going to look like fire. It's going to look like law enforcement. It's going to look like some places it's embedded deep into safety compliance and environmental health. So it's going to look, what's it going to look like? It's going to look like that, right? Emergency management is going to look like safety compliance and not like emergency management. There's emergency management applications that are happening. There's some, you can see it inside of the system, but the system is going to mirror where it's at. That's why emergency management should not be buried within fire departments or law enforcement or HR. It should be reporting to leadership. It should be able to influence leadership. I should not have to go 6 levels up in a fire department or a police department, hoping that the message gets to leadership that make the decision. And a lot of time it gets stopped because it doesn't matter or feel like it's important to the management that's taking care of it, right? They see it as, oh, this isn't a big deal. We're going to take care of this anyway in our day-to-day as a fire department or as a police department. That's not accurate at all. And it really does depend on the context in which it's applied. And as long as they're buried within, fire departments, law enforcement, HR, there's never going to be real change. The individual that does a job has to be the one that brings voice and say, this isn't where I belong. And they have to bring the argument, and they have to refer to outside of their organization as justification why what they're saying makes sense and where they should be replaced. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's not a fast thing either. It takes time. But yeah, as long as it's continues that, it's going to be hard to define really what emergency management is unless they have their own designated emergency management department that is the Department of Emergency Management that sits alongside fire and PD and EMS, and that's when things start to change.
So breaking news here out of the city of Inglewood. So last month, middle of the month actually, the beginning of the month. Last month we are now our own department. So that means that my boss is now as equal to the police chief.
That's awesome. That's the way it should be.
Yep. So he's now a department head equal to the police chief, and so I'm pretty excited about that. And
it's happening more too. That's great news that's happened there. It's actually happening a little bit. You're hearing these same types of things across the country, which is fantastic.
And mind you, we're not a huge city. We're a city. We have a lot of stuff going on in the city, right? I mean, we're the home of SoFi Stadium and the Intuit Dome and the Forum. So we have a lot of things coming here. But we're a city of 115,000 people, so it's not like we're this massive city. So hey, out there, those of you that are in smaller to mid-sized cities, you too can do it, right? So we have our own department now. We have our director is the same as the police chief and fire chief, same level.
That's awesome, man. But it takes people, but it takes people like you and like the individuals that say this is why, right? This is why this has happened. This is why it's important. Justifying it and being able to do that. There's still so many people that work within emergency management or as the emergency manager, and they can't explain what it is that they actually do. They can't justify why they shouldn't be where they are, and that needs to change.
I'll say something too. Is like I think, and no offense to anybody who's out there that does this. I think some people are happy to be, working under a fire chief or a police chief. They like that, and they get some joy out of that. Maybe some protection out of that as well. But we're not here to. I'm not judging. I'm just saying we're just kind of have that discussion. We're getting close here to the end of our show for the day. And at the end, I'm excited about this revamp that we're doing. Is there anything that you want to say before we close out?
Yeah, I look forward to the future conversations. We're going to be doing this every Monday morning, more so during the IAEM conference. but we will be doing this every Monday morning. We'll be coming and having these conversations, and I look forward to growing our audience and sharing our ideas and our knowledge as we go through. Look forward to engaging with our listeners, those who actually take the time to watch, listen, and comment on the things that we're talking about. That's how we grow, and that's how we better emergency management.
Absolutely. Hey, Dan, I appreciate your friendship. And hey, also, we have a couple things that are happening with EMN. We have our daily news stream that happens. I was about to say daily, every day. That's what daily means. And we also have a new feature called Operational Tales. So if you have stories coming from either out in the field or from the EOC, and if you want to submit them, go to the EMN Substack. You can go ahead and click on there and submit the form and submit your story of your tales of whether lessons learned or just interesting stories, or whether they're funny or sad. Submit them. We'd love to hear what you do out in the field or in the EOC. Everybody has a story to tell, and we want to hear from you. So, well, until next week, from EMN to you, stay safe, stay hydrated.
When the sirens scream out loud, or the voice that breaks the cloud, heads held high when things go wrong, will guide you through its strength and song. Disaster strikes without a sound, chaos reigns but we're around. Public safety in our hands, steady strong in every land. Emergency management.